Good evening. Good evening. How we all doing? Jeff, what's up, Jeff? Ron R. How's everybody? Welcome. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Hope everybody's well. Thanks for tuning in. All right, Lakeview Heights, Duke, 49. What's up? All right, excellent. Thanks so much for joining tonight. We got another chord workshop. We're going to go through some stuff. TGIF, right on, Russ. Jim Gregory, what's up? Well, thank you, sir. Happy Friday back to everybody else. Thank you, Jeff. Elias, good to see you. Ron from Boston's here. Excellent. Jody One here. All right. Rick Sticks is here representing. Craig, good day to you, my friend. All right. Cool. Chord workshop this time. We got Ed from Cali. Excellent. OH, what's up? A lot of my regulars back. So great to see you guys join. And as always, thank you for tuning in. Just going to turn this off for a second. All right, Chord Workshop Volume 4. What's up, Zane? I'm doing well. How are you? Chad from Fort Worth, welcome. Thank you for joining. Cheers, everybody. Hope you're keeping cool. Igor from Mexico City, welcome. Great to see you. Ray, all right. Excellent. And Rusty, all right. Well, that's cool. I hope the streak continues. Jody One, we get some, just some little nuggets here and there, right? That's what it's all about. Harry's here. All right. Karen, welcome. New Hampshire. And Peter's here. All right. Good to see you, sir. Excellent. Dennis, hello there. And Gregor's from Ireland. Excellent. That's awesome. Yeah, the heat is on in Texas. Heat is on here in Tennessee, too. It's going to get hot in here tonight. Jim in Florida, what's up? Good to see you. All right. Great turnout so far. As always, if you're just joining for the first time, expand the description below this video. There's a handout, a PDF download that you can get with the tabs for tonight's mostly chord progression kind of stuff. And hopefully see some cool little chord voicings that maybe you haven't seen before, and some things to play around with, mess around with. All right. Vincent, I appreciate that. Let's rocket it. I like that. Excellent, sir. Cool. St. Louis, right on. Good to see you. Triz Sweet. All right. Digging the channel. I hope you enjoy the stream tonight. Again, you can find a PDF with tabs. Expand the description down below. Click the link. And hopefully we'll be ready to go. So let's kick it off here. Oh, man, 75 degrees in the Bay Area. That's perfect. Gotta love it. All right, Jeff Moore. Welcome. Good to see you. All right. So pop progression exercise number 1 in the handout. Just a straight sort of, I said pop progression. It's, you can use these things in pretty much all genres, right? Chords are pretty universal. This one, that really the chord that I wanted to show off the top is this C Add9, but it might be a little bit of a different voicing than what we've covered before. All right, Rusty, thanks. Remind everybody, smash that like button. Excellent. Cape Breton Island, Teresa, welcome. Thanks for joining. Canada, I love it. All right, so this is a little bit different. We think of the C Add9 as sort of that G chord that gets moved, the low notes get moved up a string set. And that is certainly a C Add9. This is just a different voicing of that, okay? Where you've got the C note, 3rd fret of the A string, and you're curling that around. Thailand in the house, what's up? Welcome. Curl that finger around that D string so that it mutes out, and then you've got the open G string, the D note, 3rd fret of the B string, and the open E string, right? So when you think about this, you've got the root up top, you've got a 3rd, which is the E note, the open G string is your 5th, And then the D note is what adds that 9, the add 9, right? And it's another cool voicing. It sounds really different. I mean, this is the other one we've covered before. Maybe a little fuller sounding. And this is the one in this progression. Maybe a little more streamlined and just a little bit of a different character, right? So let's look at the strum pattern I'm doing here. Is just a straight down, 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 up, down, up. Okay, so for some of you beginners out there, go slow with it, right? Burn in the strum pattern and make sure you work out where your downs and ups are going. Down, 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 up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up. And again, keep that motion going, nice and relaxed, but keep that going, because if you're doing down, 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 up, throws your timing off, right? If you've got this motion going, okay, easier to stay in time, sounds a lot smoother. All right. So what I've done is put together a little chord progression using this. Okay. And our next chord is a G5, so it's sort of an open G chord. Maybe a little bit of a different voicing because we've got the 3rd fret of the low string, and same deal, curling that around, this time the A string to mute it out. Open D, open G, and then the 3rd fret of the B string. So I'm not including the top string on this. Okay, and all you have here are roots and fifths. Ismail, welcome, Fort Worth. Welcome, welcome. Okay. Roots and fifths, so that's basically a power chord, G5. Nice and streamlined sounding. So next chord is the E minor 7. So you can start to see that the D note is staying put on the 3rd fret of the B string as we go through these chords. I'm adding 2nd fret of the A and D. And this voicing includes all the strings. Okay? Vincent, all right. Love it, my man. Okay, so you can see here that there's a number of ways to finger this E minor 7 chord. You can use 2 fingers on the 2nd fret of the A and D, and then maybe your pinky, or if you can swing it, your ring finger on the B string there. I like to get 2 strings with 1 finger, so if you can swing this is a really handy way to get it, is the pad of the index finger on both strings, 2nd fret, but you got to make sure both those notes are ringing out nice and clear. Because I find it really easy to come from this G to the E minor with just 1 finger there. So this is an E minor chord, which is an E, a G, and a B with a D note included, and that's the flat 7. That's like a whole step away from E, below an E, so that will give you a flat 7 or a minor 7th. So hence we get the E minor 7 chord. And then finally, it's an open D chord, but with the open top string. So normally with an open D, you would have the F sharp 2nd fret of the high string. And that's the major 3rd of the chord, so that's a straight D major. But if I lift my finger off that and replace that note with the E, open E, that gives me the 2 in the chord, and I've replaced the 3rd, so they call it a sus2, or the suspended 2. So when you put this together, okay, what's cool about this is that what you're really doing is holding on to that D note throughout the whole chord progression, okay? And that kind of gives this tether to sort of give a cohesion to the sound a little bit. This is a really typical thing in pop and rock country, to cycle through a chord progression in a key and just keep a common note all the way through it, right? also got that high E banging in there on 3 out of the 4 chords. So that adds to the sound too. Just this sort of tension that is added by those 2 notes. Audible, what's up, man? Good to see you. All right, can anyone guess what key this song is in? If we look at these chords, how would these chords fit in with a certain key? Does anyone know what key we're looking at here? Hint, hint, it's not always the first chord in the progression, right? Doesn't always work out that the first chord in the progression is the actual key that we're in. Does anyone know? Can anyone figure it out? Jim Gregory has got it. Yeah, it turns out this is G. It could also be E minor, the relative of G. But you have to think about, in order to determine what key a chord progression is in, you have to know something that we've gone through a little while ago. I think we did it in Chord Workshop number 2, where we talked about the chord set. John got it as well. Chad, good job, guys. You need to know what the sequence is of the chord set that is created within a key, right? You remember it goes major, minor, minor, right? So the 1, 2, and 3 chords go major, minor, minor, and then the 4 and 5 are major, and then the 6 is minor, the 7 is diminished, and then you roll back again to the 1 chord, right? So you have to think of that sequence, and then just by trial and error, just kind of looking at these chords, right? And the problem with this is we could be in C right up until the very last chord, okay? Because C major, if that's your 1 chord, then G major works as the 5 chord, E minor works as the 2 chord, but D major, even though it's a sus, I guess this could be C because it's a little bit ambiguous because it's a sus, right? So this actually could work in the key of C. Now that I think of it, I didn't intend it that way. It's more likely this is in the key of G, but that D chord, you would expect it to be a minor chord because D, in the key of C, D would be the minor 2 chord, right? So if that D chord was a minor, that's a dead giveaway that, oh, this works in the key of C. But since we've got this, it's not major or minor, you kind of think, okay, major, probably. Then that works with G, right? G is the 1 chord, C is the 4 chord, which is major, E minor is the 6 chord, which is minor, so that works, and then D, which would be the 5 chord, is major, and that works there. So yeah, exactly. There you go, Ron. All right, and listen, if you're new to the guitar and I just talked a bunch of Greek, don't even worry about it. Just focus in on these chord shapes, try to get them under your fingers, try to work on your strums a little bit, and all this theory stuff it fills in the gaps as you go, okay? Not that big a deal. All right. Exercise 2. I called it an Americana progression. It doesn't necessarily need to be an Americana progression. It's just something that I felt the vibe was probably closest to, but once again, these chords can be used in any genres, really, any style. So we start off with a G chord, and this particular G chord that we've got is 3rd fret of the low string, 2nd fret of the A, open D, open G strings, and then the 3rd fret of the top 2 strings. All right, Rusty, I love it. Okay, now, what we're going to do is it's sort of a quick change on the end of 2 to this F shape. Really cool F sus2 chord. I use this voicing a lot. This is a really cool voicing, okay? So if you think about the full F major bar chord right here in this position, and the first thing to do is get rid of the low note, so we're not even thinking about the low string, okay? And just fret it. Sometimes you fret that F chord with the C in the bass. That would be like an F/C. I just think of it as straight F chord without the root, right? Now, if you lift your middle finger off the 2nd fret of the G and just go to the open G string, that creates this voicing, F sus2. And what you've done is taken the major third, which is A, on that G string second fret and replaced it with the sus2. It's kind of like what we did with the D chord in the previous example. And you get this really cool open floaty chord. Okay? So, from there, I'm just going to a C chord, and that's a great move right there to go to a C chord. Because it's kind of, you know, there's just one note, a couple notes that are moving there, so it's sort of a really easy change out of that. Right? Think about going from a full F to a C. This might be a little bit easier. Okay? And then back to the F chord. So this progression, I heard it as... whoops. A little bit of muscle memory there. Let me play that again. Okay. Kind of Americana-ish sounding to me, but doesn't have to be, right? You can slow that down. It could be kind of stylistically, it's pretty wide open. But great chord right here. F sus2. I love this voicing. Try to use it all I can. It works really well. Okay? In a lot of situations. You just want to make sure that G, right? That's basically what if you're going to use that all the way through, if G happens to be a note that lives in the key that you're playing in, then all the better. That's going to work out really well no matter what key you're in. Okay? Also something else to think about that I use all the time that I didn't put on the tab here, but if you take this shape, F sus2 shape, and just slide it up 2 frets, you've got like that G5, that open G5 sound that we were talking about before, like this one, right? But without the root. And this is really handy too. If I was going to play the same progression, it's a little bit easier to play this. What's up, Jay? Great to see you. Thanks for tuning in. All right, so just something to think about there. This G voicing right here, using the same fingers, just up 2 frets from the F sus2, gives you like an open G power chord, a different sounding one, basically. And that's a cool shape to just experiment, move up. With that open G string in between. All right, exercise 2A. 2B, right on, Vincent, I like it too. Everybody's a sucker for those. 2B is, okay, we've got like this F sus2, but a different voicing of this. And what I want to start off showing is just the top 4 strings. If I start with the F note, 3rd fret of the D, open G, 1st fret of the B, okay? And then add the G note, the octave G, on the 3rd fret of the top string. You get kind of a different sound there, but it's really cool. Now, if you can add in the C note to make it a little thicker, 3rd fret of the A string, pretty cool, right? In this case, what I'm trying to do is grab the A and D strings, again, that trick where I've got it on 1 finger, so that I have my middle finger to add in the A note here. So I've got so now I'm sort of moving some embellishment onto this. Like, first of all, this voicing is really cool. Or even just the top 4 strings. Okay, and then you're going to the F major, this part, but you've still got the Add9 up top. Okay, so pretty cool sound. And then what I did was cycle it down to A minor 7. Hard not to mute the open G string. Some of these voicings are tough. You got to like really curl those fingers around to get that G string to poke out, right? It's all in the curl of your ring finger getting on the D string. Okay, so you got to lift that up as much as you can. Push that hand forward a little bit so that you can open up that G string. It's just something you got to kind of program in and burn into the muscles. Okay. And then I've got this A minor 7. So you've got the same notes on the top, the open G, 1st and 3rd fret. And then I'm adding the 2nd fret on the D string. And then the open A string is the root. So a really cool sound between both of those. So A minor 7, you've got a couple voicings here, right? This is all A minor 7. So the first one with the open G string and the 3rd fret of the high string. But then you could also just go to the 2nd fret of the G string. It's still A minor 7 because you got a G note up top. That's what makes it an A minor 7, is that whole step below the root, which would be G. You got a G in the chord, it becomes a 7. Right? In this case, a minor 7. All right, nice one. Cool. Okay, so lots of experimentation there, just sort of giving some examples of sort of these sus sounds. Hopefully that's cool. All right, next example, example 3 is off an E minor 9 voicing that maybe some of you have not seen before. It's pretty cool. Definitely a minor sound that has a definite vibe, a definite mood to it. So you're basically getting the 4th fret of the D string, 3rd fret of the B string. And this relies on open strings. So in this example, there's so many open strings happening here that, you know, kind of works just for E minor, right? This isn't really a movable kind of thing, right? Just doing a simple arpeggiation, starting on that low E string and then going up to the D string and then cycling up and back down. Okay, really cool sound. It gives you, and again, the 9 on E would be this F sharp note, the 4th fret of the D string. That's F sharp. That's a full step above E, which gives you the 9, right? So everything else, you got the root, you got the minor 3rd, the G note. You've got the minor 7th, which is the D note. So E minor 9, E minor 9th. Did I say E minor 9th? E minor 9. All right, so we picked that through once. You keep those notes up top, and you just change the root note. So now I'm going down to D, which is the flat 7 chord in the key of E minor. And with all those open strings, you're creating these extensions. This turns out to be a D add 9. But I love the way that one sounds. Sounds really great. And basically what you've got here is this open C shape up 2 frets. Right, so. Okay, now you have to rearrange your fingers a little bit on this next part because we're changing to the C note, 3rd fret of the A string, but still keeping 4th fret of the D, 3rd fret of the B string. I can't. Right? This Wolfgang neck's a little bit smaller, so I'm just hitting X and R's all over the place. Hey, Mr. Daniel, what's up? Good to see you. So there's some cool chords there. That C chord, I had to look it up. I mean, you got so many different notes in that one. It's really hard to name that. I would just name it an E minor 9/C, probably. Probably should have done that. Yeah, absolutely. These are great arpeggiated chords. And they sound great too, strummed, if you can mute out that A string. Right? So you can strum that stuff too, and it sounds pretty cool. Moving right along to exercise 4. Cheers, everybody. All right, so these are some pretty cool chords to check out. This is an A Add9 chord. Oh, Vincent, yeah. Gotta get with the guitar that feels right in the hands, right? Sometimes necks just feel really weird. All right, so we've got, this is an A Add9 chord. You're adding a B note, which is why you're adding the 4th fret of the G string. It's basically an A major chord, except you're moving up 2 frets onto the G string to the 4th fret, which is why this is a little bit tricky to fret, right? Really cool sound though, right? Because normally you would have, like, if you're adding a B note, you would normally replace the C sharp note, which is the 3rd, and get the sus2. That's a lot easier of a voicing. But when you add in that major 3rd with the 9, yes, indeed, this is a little bit of Randy Rhoads inspired progression right here. Okay, pretty cool. And I like in the next arpeggiation, I move that down to the 1st fret of the B string, and you've got that A minor Add9. So a good way to fret this is actually with the index finger up on the B string, so that you can move between. Okay, then I'm keeping that shape on the A minor Add9 and changing the root note, right? So yes, I did lift this from an Aussie song, but great chords, right? And then I've got, it's the beginning of a Buckethead song too. I think actually, I think of an Extreme song that actually uses that as well. 2nd fret of the low string, open D string, 2nd fret of the G, 3rd fret of the B. That's your D/F sharp chord, that Highway to Hell voicing. And then I ended off with an E sus4, which is just the 2nd fret of the A, D, and G strings, and all the rest open. So you put that together, you get kind of this sound, which is, I think, is really cool. Okay, so I believe that whole progression, and I'll show you sort of another interesting chord that that song that's from is this one. Then it goes into that. Something like that. Anyway, but cool related chord to this one, okay, is this is another A major where you're adding in the sharp 4, which is really cool. So open A string, 7th fret of the D, 6th fret of the G, and 4th fret of the B string, and then the high open E string. Has a similar sort of sound to that other one. This is adding a sharp 4 onto an A major, basically, right? And then he moves down from the pinky to 5th fret of the D string, which gives you an A7 sharp 4. So you're kind of going to a dominant 7th sound with the sharp 4 still there. And then diminished shape right there against an open A, right? We talked about diminished last week. And then he's just moving that. This is a dominant 7th, F dominant 7th right here. Just by moving one finger down. And then he goes into this. Lots of cool chords, right? Randy was the man. Absolutely. So, you know, Eddie Van Halen also used this in a song. If anyone can name the song that he uses this. Right? Yeah, this is great. Finger picking kind of stuff. Absolutely. So great stuff for the acoustic. Again, just arpeggiation, finger picking, whatever. But you got great chord voicings here to mess around with. All right. That's number 4. How we doing so far? Everybody good? Oh, From the Beginning. Yes. That one is on Guitar Tricks, and I didn't indeed teach that one. But man, sometimes I completely forget songs I teach. So that one's one that I can't even think of in my head right now. I never really grew up with that song. So pretty crazy. But it is on Guitar Tricks. From the Beginning. Good stuff. Okay. Exercise 5, example 5, whatever you want to call it, down at the bottom of page 1. Some more cool chords that I use a lot. These are really cool chords that use some open strings in the key of E this time, or C sharp minor, the relative minor. So what we've got here is 4th fret of the A string, 2nd fret of the D string, and then the 4th fret of the G and B. And then the high E string, C sharp minor 9, okay? Now, once again, we're using that trick where the top 3 strings are staying fixed. We're gonna keep that shape going as we cycle through some chords, okay? So this works really well to sort of, again, give some cohesion and tie it all together. So this time I'm going to the B, 2nd fret of the A, and just curling my finger to mute the open D string. Run to the Hills. I'll have to cover that one next week. Maybe we'll do a maiden chord session or something. So this is a cool B add 11. We've got like a B chord, just basically B, octave B, major 3rd, and then the 4th, which add 11 basically, because you've already got a 3rd, right? So pretty cool sound right there. And then when you go to the open A, you go back and get the E note, 2nd fret of the D string onto those notes. A sus2 sharp 11, there's that sharp 11 again. So you're coming down basically like that, right? So okay. And then going from there and just replacing the A note with the G sharp, 4th fret of the low string. Okay. So cool. So again, this one relies on that open E string up top. So you can't really transplant that progression into different keys. It's just some cool stuff, right? It's just cool on its own. Use those open strings. And this one is an E major 7 with the G sharp in the bass. Pretty cool, okay? Good stuff, I think. Yes. Is it called the 11th because can't even talk, because of its place in the circle of fifths? No, it's called the 11th because, well, it may relate to the circle of fifths, but the way that I think of it is when you have a chord, you've got at least a root, 3rd, and a 5th, right? And so, sometimes you have that, as soon as you have a third in the chord, and especially if you have a seventh in the chord, okay, you have to go above the octave to any other notes that you add. So we're adding, in this case, the sharp 11 would be the sharp 4, okay? But because it's in the higher octave, right? Like you've got A, that's 1, and then this one's 8. So if you keep going up the scale, this would be a 4, but you're already kind of an octave up. So 4 plus 7 is 11. So that's why we call that the 11, okay? Does that make sense? It's a little bit squirrely, all this kind of chord naming stuff. A lot of the times, you know, we talk about 9, 11, 13. They're really just 2, 4, and 6 that are up in the next octave, right? And so we call it that. Does that make sense? Hopefully. Okay. Good. On to page 2. All right. Everybody hanging in. Okay. Yes. All right. This one's cool. D major 9 chord. Now we're getting into sort of Stone Temple Pilots sounding chords, right? What is the... Anyway, it's a totally different chord. But anyway, I'll have to cover that next time. So this is, you know, usually when you do a D major 7, okay, you're barring down on the 5th fret, starting on the A string all the way up. You're adding the 7th fret on the D and B string and the 6th fret on the G string. But if you curl your fingers up to reveal the open E string, you're adding an E note to the D chord. So that's what makes it a D major 9. Okay? It's a D major 7 plus the 2, but we're in the upper octave, so it's 9. Okay? Another cool sounding chord, right? Listen to the difference of that. There's D major 7. Here's D major 9. And so I added a little bit of a different strumming pattern for those of you that want to work on some strums, right? This is going to require some muting because I have some rests in here. So, okay. Next chords. Okay. 2nd fret of the A string, open D string, 2nd of the G, 3rd of the B, and the open high E string. These all add up to make a B minor 7 chord. And we're adding an 11th because, again, the E note up top is like a 4 against the B. So that would be an 11. So add 11. B minor 7, add 11. Okay. Yes. Okay, so far we've got... Now I'm going to go to a G chord, but I'm keeping the top 3 notes the same. Okay? 3rd fret of the low string, but curling to mute the A string, open D string, 2nd fret of the G, 3rd fret of the B, and the open high E string again. Gives you another float. These chords are just kind of floaty, right? Really cool sounding stuff, right? So, right? And then I'm going to an A chord after this. So open A string, 2nd fret of the D, open G string, 3rd fret of the B, and the open high E string. Now for the first 4 strums, I've got that D note, and then the rest of the strums, I'm moving that down to the C sharp, 2nd fret of the B string. So that's a common move. That's like when you've got the sus4 on the A7, down to the A7. So put that whole thing together, you got a cool, like, sort of alt rock kind of sound. Cool? You with me on that one? All right. Once again, I love playing in keys where you can use those open strings to your advantage, right? Like instead of doing a B minor 7, I mean, yeah, you can go to the full bar chord shape, but like doing it like this just adds a ton of character and color to it, right? There's nothing wrong with this, right? You can do straight. But just adding in those extensions and those little things, right? Cool. Excellent. Love it. Okay. Right on, everybody. All right. Exercise 7. This one's kind of interesting. So once again, I'm just keeping with this theme of like a lot of open strings that are adding to the sound of some chord shapes. This is sort of a chord progression you'll see every once in a while. And what I'm doing on this is just basically the open E string, open B string, open E string. Those 3 strings stay open the whole time, and I'm changing triad shapes on the A, D, and G strings. So the first one is 14, 14, 13 on the A, D, and G. So if you're on an electric, it's a little bit of a tough grab. Okay? And essentially, that's just an open E, but moving the E triad fretted part up an octave. And then, now I've got 14, 13, and 11. So if you just look at this shape, you've got a root, which is the B, the major third, which is the D sharp, and the 5th, which is the F sharp. That's B major played with the open E and B strings. Okay? Man, it's just with those open strings ringing out and you're just changing those triad shapes. Really cool sound, right? And of course, again, you can finger pick this, arpeggiate it, right? Strum it slowly, whatever. And then what I do is go to a D triad against this. So it's even more kind of out there a little bit, but you do hear this a lot in some songs. And do this, I'm just doing the same change in the shapes 2 frets down. So it goes from D to an A triad. And playing those against the open B and E strings. So you get really cool. Okay, just as an example, you know, a lot of times instead of playing it, that would sort of be the base chord progression of the song, but you can really pretty it up with these kind of voicing. Make sense? Another cool thing, and you know, as always, you know, I think I've talked about it before, but that E triad shape, move that thing around. Like, go to the C chord here. You got the A, the G, the F, the E, the F sharp. Sounds amazing, right? So pretty cool stuff. It's as clear as mud. Well, Stephen, here's the idea, is that we have chord shapes that we're just fretting on 3 strings, but we're adding in open strings with it. Okay? And we're starting off with a shape that's based on the open E. But I'm just moving the fretted notes up a full octave. Because at the 12th fret is an octave of the open strings, right? So if I put my fingers up there, okay, and then from there, I can make this triad shape. These triads are just putting 3 notes together to make a basic chord. This is a B major chord. Okay? Right? And just combining it with open strings. It's just all experimentation to hear what sounds nice, right? That doesn't sound nice. I wouldn't do that. But that does, right? A lot of it actually surprisingly sounds nice. So there you go. You got lots of different sounds to experiment with, okay? Sometimes you don't always have to think about the theory. Just move some chord shapes around and see what works with the open strings. You'll be able to hear it. You'll be able to hear what you like the sound of and what kind of doesn't really sound good. Like that doesn't sound good. If you want, but hey, it's music. If you want to create a lot of tension with some dissonance, maybe you do that as just like an in-between chord, right? Absolutely, Mike, right? These are total Alex Lifes and moves. Yeah, Eddie Van Halen too, right? Did it? Good stuff. All righty, exercise 8. Plucking strings on my classical sounds interesting. Absolutely. Do it. Audible. Good idea. I just like to move up and down the neck with a chord. See what happens. Absolutely. It's all about experimentation. You're going to stumble across stuff that you like the sound of. We don't always have to worry about why it works or how it works or whatever. It's nice to know that stuff, but you don't have to. Just put it together the way you like it. Excellent, Chad. That's awesome. Classical. I'll have to bring my classical guitar down here one week and do some stuff. That'd be fun. Not that I'm a classical player at all, but I like having a nylon string for different sounds and different feel, right? It's got a bigger neck and the nylon strings is a cool sound. All right, so I've got sort of a famous chord progression here that has got some really cool chords in it. Exercise 8 or example 8. All right, Chad, excellent. That's all we can do. I'm doing the same thing. Okay, so C major 7. I think we've already learned. So we talked about the D major 7 and some some shapes that kind of look like this. But once again, with open strings, you can have a C major. A lot of times, you'll see the C major 7 be the open C major, but taking this C note and turning it into the open B string will make it a C major 7. This particular one that I've got adds in the low G note a little bit thicker, right? So pretty cool. So the strum pattern right here is a 16th note bass strum pattern. It goes kind of like that. Down, down, up, down, 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 up. Okay, so once again, take that slow. You've got that. Want to keep that going, right? And then just a straight up B minor 7. So here's an example of where this works really well, just as the full B minor 7 bar chord, root 5, root on the 5th string. Going into an F major 7. And remember, I talked about just having the C in the bass. So you've got the 3rd fret of the A and D, 2nd fret of the G, 1st fret of the B, and then the open high E string. That's an F major 7. Going to a G7, the bar chord shape, root on the low string, 3rd position. Okay, so I'm barring the 3rd fret, adding 5th fret of the A, 4th fret of the G string. And then ending off with some cool chords here. All right, so let's look at that last couple bars. All right, let's take a look at the first one is the Hendrix chord. played as a D7. Yes, Jody, you got it. This is from Dark Side of the Moon, right? Okay. Hendrix chord right here. That's really cool. So we got the 5th fret of the A string, 4th fret of the D string, 5th fret of the G, 6th fret of the B string. We call this a D7 sharp 9. Okay. And then if you flatten down to the 4th fret, take the pinky off the B string, and if you get the 4th fret of the B string, you're just moving one note out of that chord, and it becomes the D7 flat 9. Okay? And then that final chord is a juicy chord, the E minor add 9, right? That's with the moving this E note up 2 frets to F sharp. So you've got the 2nd fret of the A, 4th fret of the D. Right? Something like that. But I always love this chorus section because it's got some really cool chords in it, right? The F major or C major 7, B minor 7, F major 7, G7, Hendrix with another move like that, and then really cool chords right there, right? So love that kind of stuff, right? Cool. So again, basically, you know, sort of those last bars, you've got the G7, and then basically going to just substitutions for a D7 chord, right? Instead of just a regular D7, add a sharp 9 and then a flat 9 onto a D7. And it just all of a sudden, all sorts of color coming out of there, right? And you notice also how he doesn't linger on those chords, right? Because there's a certain dissonance to them, right? If we, you know, hit on this one for a while, I don't know, it's pretty tense sounding, right? It's certainly not as lush sounding. You know, as your F major 7 chords. So there's a reason he just does one strum. One strum on each of those color chords where they're just bordering on dissonant, right? Certainly that one. You don't want to stick on that one too long, and then there's the release, right? From the tension. That E minor add 9 just float away with it, right? Cool, Russ. My pleasure, man. Excellent. All right, final exercise of the night, number 9. Where would be without a little bit of a jazzy turnaround, right? So we talked a little bit about this a couple of weeks ago in volume 3, I believe, showed some stuff. So I'll just going to play this first, and then I'll talk about it a little bit. It goes like this. Okay. There you got it, Audible. Absolutely. Okay, so a little bit of a different approach here. Using the fingers. You can use a pick and pluck, right, to do this too. Like that kind of thing. This is sort of a jazzy turnaround kind of thing. And so what you've got starting off with is the G major 7. This voicing is the 3rd fret of the low string. And then you've got the 4th fret of the D and G, 3rd fret of the B string. And there's tons of guitar voicings where you've got a root 6 and then you're muting the A string. Okay? There's tons of these. And we'll get into more of these. I'm going to keep doing sort of these chord workshop volumes. Right? We'll do a volume 5. I don't know if we'll do it next week, but We'll do another one coming up, and I'll show you lots of different sort of chord shells that have this shape, okay? But classic move right here from the G major 7. I think we did a similar thing in the key of C, but I'm doing it in G tonight, right? Yeah, Mike Carpenter with the drop 3. I know, I don't know that that jazzy terminology, man. There you go. Yeah, so I'll just spin back a little bit, Peter, going back a little bit to the resolution, right? To the that's bright, right? Like, because you're in the 5 chord here, right? Basically. Or the 2 chord, depending on, I guess not the 2 chord. If you think about where you could go with that, you could actually think of it as C major. No, I guess not. You couldn't do that. It would have to be a G major chord. If you think of the D chord as a 5 chord, basically what he's doing is going from the 5 chord, but then going to the relative minor for that darker sound, right? So if you just went to a G major from there, oh, sorry. Okay, you can still hear it. You hear that voice leading a little bit, or probably G major 7 works even better. And then you can go into the next one. Okay, cool. Yeah, so G major 7 and then the G sharp diminished 7th chord, which notice how it changes. It's still on the D, G, and B strings, the upper part of the chord, and you're right. Yeah, exactly. You still get the resolve, right? But it's sort of, yeah, like Peter was saying, it's sort of that sad, darker resolve versus the happy major resolve. So there you go. Music is all about choices, right? Cool. Yeah. So G sharp, diminished 7th, A minor 7, right, where it's all on the 5th fret here. This is your classic major 7 shape. And then just a straight old D7 is what I used here. And this is the open C7, moved up 2 frets. Okay. What's up, Paul? Good to see you. All right. So a little alternate to this that you could do. Actually, you can do this same sort of turnaround coming from a dominant 7th chord. So if you had G dominant 7th, now, there's a dominant 7th shape that goes 3rd fret of the low string, skip the A string, 3rd fret of the D, 4th fret of the G, 3rd fret of the B. That is another one where I was talking about those typical, as Mike suggested here, maybe a drop 3 chord. Dominant 7th shape that's used a lot. And if you actually come up from G dominant 7th using that shape, you don't have to change the voice, the chord on top. You're just changing the root note. So it's cool the way that you go from that dominant 7th. You can kind of do it like that if you want. It's kind of a finger twister, but isn't it neat how if you go from a dominant 7th and move the root up 1 fret, you get the diminished 7th. And you go up to the A minor 7, and then you could even do a D9, right? Like that's a good dominant substitution from the D7, right? All right, getting a little jazzy, just sprinkling in a few of these little chord voicings there. So I hope you found it. I hope you got some nuggets out of this one tonight. It was really fun coming up with this because I kind of just threw all sorts of cool stuff. I know this one he leaned heavily on open strings, so you're kind of tied to certain keys when you do that. but good stuff to play around with, I hope. Jody, thank you. Sophia, next week, can you teach us a riff from GT? Is trying to learn drops of Jupiter. I found the intro a little confusing. Maybe because I'm not the one teaching it. That's that has to be it. No, I don't. I'm just kidding. Let me make a note of that, and we'll see what we can do next week. And then I can have a look at maybe that intro, and then kind of expand upon it and teach some other stuff, sort of based on that, and maybe give you some tips on how to kind of conquer that kind of stuff if it's a little confusing. Paul, how long does a guitar pick last? Do they get dull? Absolutely. You'll start, mine start, and I use 1 millimeter. So it's, they start to get chewed up. It's just kind of up to you. There's something about brand new pick, nice, nice and pristine and working with it. So, if it gets all chewed up, maybe it's time to change it. But I don't really think they get dull, right? Like they just kind of wear away a little bit. So it's kind of down to, I'm not sure that it really affects the tone that much. It's more just, can kind of get beat up a little bit. Yes, absolutely, Mike. We've been doing lots of cool stuff in the series every Friday. So glad to see you on here this week. Next week, Paul, I haven't decided yet, but we'll know sometime next week and we'll do it. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. Igor, thank you. Sophia, thank you. Red Jeff, appreciate it. All right, King 50, thank you. Thank you. Have a great weekend as well, Peter. Thank you so much. Audible. All right. As soon as that tip goes, that's right. As soon as that tip turns into a ridge, that's it. All right, John, Ron, thank you so much. Oh, Don, you got to keep these away from the kids. Papa Martin, thank you. Thanks, Chad. All right, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. Take care. See ya.